Ready to dive into something that's kind of changing how we see, well, everything.
I'm in. This one's got me thinking.
Today, we're going deep on data as capital. Remember that when data is capital article you sent?
Yeah.
Total mind blower. We hear about data privacy, hacks, the usual, but this was different. Like how data itself is changing the whole capitalism game.
Big time. You nailed it. Not just what's happening, but the power dynamics, the economics, the whole nine yards.
Right. And it starts bold. Everything is made of data. You might think, okay, it's the digital age, duh, but the article says it's deeper, like a deliberate way of seeing the world.
100%. When
Yeah.
IBM, Cisco, those guys say that, they're not just stating a fact. They're setting the stage, and they're the main players. It's like they're saying, we hold the keys because we get it, we collected data, the world's most valuable resource.
So you've heard it before. Data is the new oil, the gold rush, all that.
Catchy, but this research says, hold up a sec, people think raw material, byproduct of us online, right? But this article, it's saying data is bigger. Data capital.
Data capital. So not like coffee beans, buy and sell, but like
Yeah.
financial capital, stocks, bonds, that level.
Bingo. And to explain it, they get seriously academic, Marx, factories, workers, that guy.
Oh boy, here we go.
Or Bourdieu, he was all about different types of capital, how they create power imbalances.
Okay, before we get to Professor example time, real world.
All right, so you buy a smartphone, right? Year or two later, basically worthless. But all the data it got on you, that just gets more valuable as time goes on.
Whoa, so phone, less valuable. Data, more valuable. That's kind of nuts.
Exactly. And here's where it gets interesting. The drive to get more data, always more, it's like the hunger for old school capital never satisfied. There's this quote, stuck with me, Andrew Ng, big AI guy, said something like, companies launch products not even to make money right away, but for the data. Data's the prize.
Okay, now that's kind of creepy if you think about it.
Yeah.
What we do online, what we like, where we are, it's all being mined like some precious ore.
Yeah.
And we don't always know, do we?
Nope, not always. And it's not just about mountains of data. It's the clever ways they use it to make money, to, exert influence. That's where data capital really clicks.
Okay, so data is a financial asset.
Mhm.
But how does that equal cash? What can they do with all this data?
5 main things, the article says. Pretty relatable, even if it's a little unsettling.
Hit me.
All right, first one, most obvious probably. Profiling and targeting. Those ads that are like creepily personalized credit scores, even how prices change because of what you've browsed. You ever feel like websites just know you a little too well?
Don't get me started. It's like my social media is reading my mind
Yeah.
and not in a good way.
Right. Tip of the iceberg. Number 2 is optimizing systems. Amazon, they use wristbands in their warehouses, track hand movements, make workers more efficient, or smart city sensors managing traffic in real time.
Kind of amazing, really. Invisible force shaping
Yeah.
the world around us.
Right. And sometimes not so amazing. Number 3 gets into some powerful stuff. Managing and controlling. Fridges that monitor what you eat, police drones with face recognition, data influencing choices, even whole systems.
So not just understanding what we do, but nudging us certain ways, whether we realize it or not. Okay, what about the last two?
Number 4, modeling probabilities. Think crime prediction algorithms, factoring in stuff like how many people live in an area, even the moon phase, to try and guess where crime might happen.
So predicting the future, kind of.
In a way, yeah. And last one, data to build stuff. Uber, their whole thing depends on knowing where you are right now. Smart homes, always collecting data on how you use them. Even self-driving cars, they need tons of data to learn to function.
It's wild how something you can't even touch, data, is the basis for so much in the real world.
And that's exactly why this data as capital idea matters. Like any other capital, it's got its own rules, incentives that drive people to get more. And this article's point is those incentives, not always good for us.
Okay, getting intense. So data is valuable, but I think we got to talk about the not so good side of all this collection.
You're talking data extraction, right? The article's term. Every little bit of data, it's got to come from somewhere. And a lot of times, that's us. People who don't even know how it's being used, let alone making money from it.
And that's what we'll unpack next. Stick with us, because we're about to get into the dark side of data. So we just laid out this whole data as super valuable, data capital. But the words we use for getting that data, it's almost polite,
Yeah, like collected, gathered, even mined, like it's just sitting there waiting for us, like seashells or something.
Right. Natural resource, no big deal.
Yeah.
But this article, they use data extraction. Suddenly it feels a lot less, harmless.
Right, because it's not always just passively getting info. It's probing, tracking, watching people to get that data in the first place.
That's when the smart stuff starts to feel, well, less fun, more Big Brother-ish.
Think about it. Your smart fridge, not just keeping things cold, but tracking how often you open it, what brands, your eating habits. Fitness tracker knows where you go, your heart rate, that's all part of your data profile, super valuable to the right company.
Okay, so data extraction, sneaky, built into what we use. But what about consent? Don't they have to ask before they take all this stuff?
That's where it gets iffy. Remember those end user licensing agreements, the EULAs, the things we always just click agree on?
Oh, those novels. I just hold the button down, hope for the best.
That's it. The article's point is true consent. Those things are meaningless. They're meant to be too long, so no one reads them. And even if you did, can't negotiate. Right, it's agree or no app for you.
So much for informed consent. But even beyond that, compensation. If they're making bank off our data, shouldn't we get a cut?
Now you're talking fairness in data capitalism, and the article says straight up, the system benefits those at the top.
Meaning?
Think what they get versus what we get. Empires, billions built on our info. Us, we get a free service. That's only free 'cause. Let's be real, we're the product.
So we make the valuable thing, but we don't own it, don't profit from it.
And it's bigger than us too. Data brokers, buying, selling our info. Multi-billion-dollar market. Often without us knowing, agreeing to it, let alone getting paid.
Kind of overwhelming, Feels like you can't fight a system this big.
You're right, it can feel that way. But there are ideas out there, solutions, some of them pretty radical.
Okay, I'm listening. Like what?
Get this? The Economist of all places is saying the government needs to step in, rein in these data giants.
Wait, seriously. The Economist. Not exactly known for being, anti-big business.
I know, right? But even they see it, this data grab, it's creating some dangerous power imbalances. They're talking things like data localization laws, so companies can't just ship our data to countries with weaker privacy.
So digital borders for data. Wild. What else?
Even more radical, what if governments treated some of this data stuff like public infrastructure?
Hold on, you're saying our data, instead of companies owning it, profiting? It could be a public good. For everyone.
That's the idea. Now, tons of details to work out, obviously. But the fact that it's even being discussed shows how much things are shifting. People are realizing data is power. And right now, it's concentrated in very few hands.
It's like, are we going to keep going down this road where our data is mined, monetized, no say-so from us? Or do we try to build something different? Data as a common good, something that helps everyone.
Which brings us back to that data as the new oil thing. This article, they ask, is that even the right way to think about it? Like, by treating it like a resource to be extracted, are we missing something bigger?
Because it's not oil, right? It's our lives, our relationships, who we are almost.
Exactly. Reduce it to just another product. We forget it's personal. It's tied to us as people. The question now is, how do we use it powerfully, but fairly, without taking advantage of where it came from?
It's a lot to think about. Data's changing things, no doubt. Not good or bad, on its own. It's how we choose to use it, who benefits, what we do with it that matters.
100%. And that's a conversation we all got to be part of.
For sure. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder. This is important stuff. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. So, treating data like roads, bridges, public stuff.
That's a lot, right?
Huge. Easy to say, share the data wealth, but how do you actually do it? Fairly. Protecting privacy. Even the experts are scratching their heads on that one.
Feels like we're barely dipping our toes in here. And it's not just laws, right? It's us, how we think about data, personally. Totally. Not just for the folks in charge to decide. You, listening right now, you matter in this. Every time, it's like, I agree, without reading the fine print. Every free service where you give up info, you're part of the system, whether you know it or not.
So what do we do? These tech companies, they've got all the power, right?
Starts with knowing what's up, how's it collected, how's it used. Step one, get the rules of the game, then you can play it smarter.
Being more careful, what we share, what apps, all that.
Exactly. Support companies that, get it, bug the lawmakers about stronger privacy stuff. And don't forget, no is a full sentence, opt out when you can,
Like, we got this crazy powerful tool, but we're still figuring out the safety manual.
And there's so much good it could do, right? Imagine data solving the world's biggest problems. Disease, climate, poverty.
Okay, now that's exciting. It's like, we need new words for all this. Not just extraction, but stewardship. Data for good.
100%. get past this, it's all going to be terrible, or it's all going to be amazing. It's about us figuring out how to make it work for us, not just for corporations.
This deep dive has been, well, a lot. We went from 0 to 60 on this data as capital thing. But the point is, pay attention, folks. This is important.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Knowledge is power, right? Understanding how it works, that's how we build a future that's fair for everyone, not just a few.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder all this wild, kind of creepy, but totally crucial stuff. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll be back next time exploring more big ideas shaping our world. Till then, stay curious.